Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining us today. And here we are with our very own first meet of 2021. I'm sure you must have been waiting for so long for OWASP Bangalore meet. And today we have a very interesting project. Thanks for joining us. Project with us, which is OWASP Nettacker. And we have Sam with us. He's one of the OWASP leader from London. And he's one amazing person I know from the AppSec conferences and from OWASP Circle. He started doing the online meets even before people started thinking that the online meets should happen. So they used to do the in-person meets, but then he made sure that there is a live streaming that happens so that whosoever could not join the meet, they can get to know what has happened in the meet and learn from it. So OWASP, I'll just mention again that what it is. OWASP is Open Web Application Security Project, and it's not just testing guide, it's not just top 10, but it's a group of different chapters. We have a board, and we also have some amazing projects which you should take a look at. And today we are talking about one of the projects. So over to you, Sam.
Thanks, Vandana. Thanks for the introduction. Let me just share my screen so I can start my slides. Okay. Can you see my slides now?
Yes, I can see your slides.
Okay, excellent. Thank you. Welcome, everyone. My name is Sam Stepanyan. I'm from OWASP London. I'm one of OWASP London chapter leaders, as Vandana already introduced me. You can find me on Twitter. My Twitter handle is SecureStep9. And this talk is about OWASP Nettacker project. So first of all, a little bit about me. I come from a software development background. I work as an application security consultant for financial services here in London. As I mentioned already, I'm one of OWASP London chapter leaders. My role is a defender. I'm a defender. I protect organizations. So why am I here and why am I presenting a talk about the tool which consists of words network and attacker? The story is actually quite interesting because back in 2018, we received an urgent email from the project leaders, original project leaders of OWASP Nettacker, and they asked us to present this project that we knew nothing about. And because the original Nettacker leaders couldn't get to London in time to present at Black Hat Europe 2018, we were asked to present it. So Dr. Greg Frakos and I, back then, we had to learn this tool overnight. And we absolutely fell in love with it. And we said, okay, we'll learn it. We'll go to the Black Hat conference and we will present it at the Arsenal track. And then suddenly this happened. We had huge crowds which were watching the demo. And there were people from all different sectors, so information security, penetration testers, defenders, red team, blue team, people from risk and compliance. They were all fascinated by this project. And then we said, okay, people like it. Let's repeat it the year after. So in 2019, we presented again, and even bigger crowds gathered to watch this project. So this project was previously unknown. It's one of the lesser known projects of OWASP. Why is it so popular then? So what is it? OWASP Nettacker is an open source software tool, just like all OWASP projects. And what it does, it assists with penetration testing by automating several information gathering and vulnerability scanning tasks. So Nettacker is written in Python, and it can run on Windows, Linux, or Mac OS. And currently it supports both Python 2 and Python 3. Another very important thing to mention about OWASP Nettacker, that it is one of the projects chosen by Google Summer of Code. Now, if you don't know, Google Summer of Code is an initiative by Google when every single year they pick out several open source projects and then they invite students to work on these projects during their summer break. And we are happy to report that Nettacker was one of the projects chosen by Google for this Google Summer of Code initiatives. And we had several students who very successfully worked on OWASP Nettacker over their summer breaks and provided lots of new modules and enhancements to this tool. So what is OWASP Nettacker? You can think of it as a Swiss Army knife. And just like a Swiss Army knife, it's a tool which consists of many tools, which are not necessarily compatible with each other, but can they all be used together? This is one of the interesting things about Nettacker. It's a collection of tools. It has a modular structure. It's written in Python, so it's relatively easy to write your own modules. It's a fast-performing tool because it's using Python's multi-threading to actually perform several tasks at once. It has something called customizable profiles, which are bundles of modules focused on the specific tasks, and you can actually create these profiles yourself. So you can, for example, pull several blades of the Swiss Army knife at the same time. And if you are performing a separate set of tasks quite frequently, you can automate it by creating a profile and basically bundle together the tools that you are using most frequently for a particular purpose. And of course, one of the most important things about Nettacker that you can automate it and you run it from the command line. So another thing about OWASP Nettacker that it is not officially released yet. So it's not like tools like OWASP Zap, for example, which has been released and it's now well over in second version. So OWASP Nettacker is not even in beta. It's still under development. So it has a version 0.0.1 at the moment. We're always looking for more contributors. So if you know Python and you love the tool and you would like to help us enhance it and bring it to the next level, you are very welcome to contribute to it. However, what is great about this tool? It is actually a working tool, and it already has a command line interface. It has a web user interface. It has an API. It has a report generator. It also has Maltego transforms. So those of you who use Maltego, for example, in Kali Linux, can use modules of Nettacker to be used in Maltego. And it has more than 62 modules. So first of all, documentation, where can you find Nettacker? So you can find it on the OWASP page. It has its own page. But the documentation, very important thing, that is located in the wiki. And you actually, once you navigate to the Nettacker page, you have to click on wiki. And then to install it, there is an installation section. So to install Nettacker is actually a very simple thing. What you have to do, you just have to clone it from using git clone from the OWASP repository and GitHub. So you just type git clone github.com OWASP Nettacker in your operating system, and then you just need to install the requirements for Python using pip install requirements. I will show you how easily it can be done during the demo. But before I go any further, I have to warn everyone. I have to issue a responsible use warning and provide this disclaimer. So OWASP Nettacker is actually an offensive security tool, and you shall not misuse this tool nor any other security tools for unauthorized access. And just a reminder that performing security scans without permission of the owner of the computer system is illegal. So bear this in mind. So very first time when I started Nettacker, it spat out lots of text with lists of modules and usage instructions, and I didn't really understand what it does. It was really confusing, and this is why the very first time when I looked at it, I couldn't really understand what it does, and I didn't proceed with this tool until I was asked to present it. So in this presentation, I'm actually going to make it very simple for you so you can understand the tool. So Nettacker has several modules, and it has three different categories, three different types of modules. It has modules of type scan. So these are modules which scan for something, for example, perform port scan. It has a type of module of VULN. So these are the modules which are looking for a particular vulnerability. So for example, an example of a scan module would be a port scan. So a module will scan for open ports. But for example, Apache Struts VULN module would be looking for a vulnerability in Apache Struts. And it has a category brute, so for brute forcing. So an example of a brute forcing module is SSH brute. It's a module which will try to brute force its way in using SSH protocol. So this is it. This is very simple. So there are just three types of modules: scan, VULN, and brute force. Let me display on the screen some examples of the scan modules that we have. So as you can see, we have quite a few of them. I will highlight some of them. For example, admin scan will try to scan the target for any admin type folders, for example, WordPress admin or /admin or phpMyAdmin. There's a CMS detection scan. This scan will try to detect what kind of content management systems are used on the target. Directory scan will perform a search for several important or vulnerable directories. So it's quite similar to other directory listing modules. There are also scan modules for versions of Drupal, Joomla, and WordPress. So again, this is so you can identify, once you identified if there is a specific content management system running on the target, you can identify the version of that CMS. And why is it useful? It's useful because, as you know, the three most popular content management systems in the world, Drupal, Joomla, and WordPress, periodically there are vulnerabilities which are discovered in them. And obviously, if you know that the site is running a vulnerable version, you know you need to contact the owner to get them to fix this. There's also subdomain scan. This is the one that we use quite frequently. And there are also some specific scans for the WordPress. For example, you can look for various WordPress plugins, themes. You can enumerate users of WordPress. There's also a specific scan for Tim Thumb's plugin as well, because it had a known vulnerability a couple of years ago. And another interesting scan module is Wapalizer. I'll demo it to you a bit later, because that's the one which allows us to find out what is actually running on your website. These are the list of the vulnerability modules. Again, there, as you can see, there are quite a few of them. We're constantly working on adding new modules to this list. Again, just to bring your attention to some of the modules, so they mentioned Apache Struts vulnerability. But an interesting one is, for example, the one which checks for the heartbleed. For example, if the target has a heartbleed vulnerability. There's also a several modules which are looking for pro FTPD vulnerability, because that was quite popular one a couple of years ago. Another interesting one is a server version vuln. I'm going to use it in my demo. So this module basically gets the banner from the web server and sees if it's any information being leaked about what kind of web server it is being used there. And another quite useful one is SSL certificate expired vuln. So this module allows you to scan your network and find all the hosts which have expired SSL certificates. There are, of course, few other vulnerability modules. They are all documented on the wiki, so you can read about every single one of them there. Now on to brute forcing. So Nettacker performs several types of brute forcing attacks. So it can brute force using FTP, using HTTP basic auth. You can also brute force HTTP forms. You know, if you have your username and password login form, so Nettacker can be used to brute force those. You can also brute force NTLM authentication, SMTP, SSH, Telnet, and also WordPress XML RPC brute forcing attacks. These are the types of attacks which are currently supported. So a few words about OWASP's history, OWASP Nettacker's history. Originally, Nettacker used to be called IoT Scan, and this was the original intention when the scanner was created by its authors to scan for to scan your network for the IoT devices. You could also, the idea was you scan your IoT devices for open ports, and then you brute force and scan for default credentials, for example, admin. And I actually know, and I use Nettacker for one of my clients. And this is a company which runs lots of CCTV cameras all over big warehouses. Obviously, I use Nettacker tool to discover all the cameras, and all the cameras were the default username and password, which actually was admin was not changed. So this is actually quite useful. And actually Nettacker's Twitter handle is still IoT scan, by the way. So after that, the tool was renamed as Nettacker. And however, the #1 module that is still in use there is Port Scanner. Again, a lot of you probably use Nmap as probably most popular port scanning tools. And since I started using Nettacker, I actually switched to Nettacker instead of Nmap because it's so much easier and faster to use it. So if you want to use port scan module, you just basically define the port scan, and you can define the number of threads and threads per host. And you can, if you want to scan for specific hosts, you just add the -G to the list. For example, if you want to scan for the port 80 or 443, rather than scan for all open ports, you can do it easily by just adding a -G parameter. Okay, so the next thing before I show you the demo, another important thing to understand how Nettacker runs, you need to provide at least 2 arguments to the Nettacker command line. So you need to provide the target, what are you going to scan, and a module or a method, what are you scanning your target with. So for example, if you want to scan a host 192.168.0.149, you would run Nettacker with -I and your target, and then you specify -M and a module. For example, here is port scan. However, as the name suggests, Nettacker scans networks, not just hosts. So if you want to scan your entire network, for example, in this case, class C, you can define your network here as a target and still perform a port scan on the whole network. So Nettacker targets can be a single IP address. It can be a range of IP addresses that you can define with a start IP and ending IP address. You can also define your network using CIDR notation with the bits. You can also define a domain name, for example, OWASP.org. And you can also define your target as a specific URL, for example, http://owas.org or https://owas.org as an example. So it supports both HTTP and HTTPS. But this is not it. So Nettacker also allows you to load the list of targets from a file. So for example, if you work in an organization, your network will definitely consist of several IP ranges. So you will probably be owning many domain names. And what you can do, you can actually put them all in one nice text file and load that text file when you run Nettacker, and then you can apply the same modules. Okay, so let me now switch to my Kali Linux, and I will show you how to install and run Nettacker. First of all, let me show you here. This is Kali Linux. Okay, and I'm going to show you how to install Nettacker. I hope you can see the font on the screen. Okay, so to install Nettacker, you'll see how quick it is. You just have to type git clone https, then github.com/OWASP/Nettacker. And you can see how quickly it is being downloaded and installed. It still is only, at the moment, only about 5 megabytes in size, so it can be downloaded very, very quickly. And then to install all the dependencies, we'll need to change into the Nettacker folder, and then type pip-r, pip install-r requirements.txt. Okay, and obviously this will install requirements. You might get a few warnings about Python version 2 no longer supported, but there you go. This is Python being installed, and now here you can run Nettacker just by typing Python nettacker.py. And again, if I run it with no arguments, you will see that it will display its help, its usage instructions. And you can see that there are few options here at the beginning about various options how you can run Nettacker. It supports several languages. I think you can even switch to Hindi since I'm speaking at OWASP Bangalore. But there are several options here, for example, talking about how do you define targets, how do you define target lists. This is what I've already covered with you. How you can define your scan methods. And also here you can see more options about the verbosity, about which graphs to use. I'll show you graphs in this demo as well. And these are the scan methods. And you can see lots of methods here. And also there's another option of excluding methods. So there you go. So you can understand why when I ran it first time, I was quite confused because I didn't really understand what all this stuff means. However, since we already looked at how to use it, I can show you now a simple example of using OWASP Nettacker. And let me perform a port scan on a host. So for this, I'm going to type Python Nettacker .py, and then I will define my target. So my target is 192.168.132.174. So I'm running a virtual machine which has several ports open, but I don't know which ones, and I'll run port scan. Okay, and as you can see, when Nettacker starts, it's displayed its version, and then it says it's loaded 67 modules, which are currently available in Nettacker. You can see in progress, it discovered several running ports, and then it displayed us the output. So there you go. You can see how quickly you can find out all the ports which are running on this particular host. Okay, let me now switch back to my presentation. I'm going to talk to you about another interesting advantage of Nettacker is that you can actually chain methods. Remember, when I was speaking about Swiss Army knife, I actually mentioned that you can pull several blades at once, so you can combine several methods. So to combine several methods on your target, all you have to do, you just have to list the modules with a comma, the ones that you want to use. So for example, if I wanted to scan a particular host with a port scan module and also with phpMyAdmin scan module, I can just define them like this. But there is another interesting example. If I wanted to scan OWASP.org and find out all its subdomains, and I want to find out all the server version banners from all the subdomains, I can do that as well. And this is actually one of the very cool features of Nettacker, that you can combine modules and you can combine them with subdomain scan. Okay, let me switch back to my Kali Linux. Okay, and demo to you how this can be done. Okay, so I am going to use Nettacker to scan OWASP.org and find all its subdomains. So how can we do this? Okay, so I'm going to define OWASP.org domain. This is the domain that I'm allowed to scan. Again, a quick reminder, never run Nettacker on networks that you have no permission to scan. Okay, Nettacker PY. So I need to define my target. So in this case, I'm not defining an IP address. As you can see, I'm defining a domain. And I want to perform a subdomain scan. Let's first find out all the subdomains of OWASP.org. Okay, so if I do this, you can see very quickly, Nettacker brings back all the list of subdomains of Nettacker, of OWASP.org, sorry. So you can see it found 33 subdomains. Okay, this looks good, but let me see what else we can do. So I want to now also find out the server version VULN. And I also want to add another module, which is the X powered by VULN. Okay, so obviously this module will discover if the server is leaking the X powered by header, which defines what particular version of programming language a server might be running. Okay, and I'm going to add another setting here, which is -s, and this basically means that I want to do run the modules for every single subdomain that Nettacker finds. Okay, and you can see now something interesting is happening, because we are now seeing for every single subdomain of OWASP.org, we're discovering if the web server is working, is running on it, and what is it running. You can see it's really, really cool. You can see how quickly it runs, and you can see all the data that is being discovered. Again, try to do that with another tool. You might be able to do it with a combination of tools, but not all at once. There you go. And you can see we now got this a lovely report where we can see all our domains with all the open ports. Okay, this is really, really, really great, right? So obviously trying to use different tools, it will take you a much, much longer time. And you can see how quickly and easily this was done using Nettacker. Okay, this is not it, because I'm going to show you one more module here. And this module is a WAPalizer scan. So WAPalizer is a module which allows you to discover what is actually running on a particular web server. And again, usually you would use it on the one specific host, but with Nettacker, you can attack the network. In this case, you can attack all the subdomains of your target. So again, you can see that we're now submitting all the subdomains to WAPalizer, and you can see it's already finding some jQuery, some Ruby on Rails, Fastly, GitHub Pages, Cloudflare, Google Fonts, varnishes, and yeah, allows us to perform recon. So now we know what is running on subdomains of OWASP. And we can also see the that the previous scans, that previous modules are also operating. So I now combine several modules together, and they're all scanning at once. Obviously, this is going to take a little bit longer than before because there are more modules involved, but you can see that it's working, and you can see WAPalizer is discovering all the frameworks, cache tools, CDNs, programming languages that are run on the target. So this is all really, really cool stuff. Okay, so this is about the actual modules. Again, this is now it's going to Nettacker is going to take some time to generate the report, and I will show this report to you in 1 second. Let me know. Yeah, as you can see, it's still waiting for some of the scans to complete. Okay. Let me just quickly switch back to my presentation so I can talk to you about various profiles. So you can see we can bundle several modules together, and obviously I listed them with a comma, but you can also use profiles. So what are profiles? Profiles are bundles of modules where basically you define that comma-separated list of things you want to use together in a profile, and then you can call it using -- profile command line option. So Nettacker comes with several profiles predefined. So it comes with info, which is for information gathering. So this is all the information gathering modules to be used together. Scan, this is all the modules which perform specific scans. Brute, this profile will bundle all the brute forcing modules together. VULN will only run the vulnerability modules. And there are also two other profiles. One is WP for WordPress. So this will apply all the WordPress specific modules to your target. There's a Joomla one, and there's a magic one, which is all. That means that all modules available in Nettacker will be run against the target. However, you have to be aware that you can also exclude specific modules, because if you run all the modules on your target, it will actually take quite a long time to complete. Okay, another interesting thing is that you don't need to remember all the command line options of Nettacker. You can use something called the wizard. So if you run Nettacker with -w command line option, it will actually prompt you for on every single step what you want to scan, how many thread numbers you want, how many thread numbers per hosts, where do you want to output the results, etc., etc., etc. Again, if you cannot remember all the options, it can be quite useful for you just to use the wizard. So again, let me switch back to my live demo and show to you how the wizard works. Okay, you can see that our previous scan completed, and I will actually show you something from it in a second. So let me just show you the wizard. So again, if we run Python nettacker.py and -w, we don't need to specify anything else. Nettacker is going to ask us all these questions. So it says, please enter the target or targets. Say OWASP.org. Say thread number, default is fine. Thread per scans hosts, default is fine. Where do you want the output? Default is fine. Then it gives me the scan methods, and I'm like, okay, I want to perform, let's say, a server version one. Okay, please enter methods to exclude. I don't want to exclude anything. Usernames and passwords. Obviously, if we're performing brute forcing attacks, we need to define usernames and passwords. Timeout, how long the attacker will wait before it times out when performing a scan task or vulnerability scan. Enter the port numbers if you want to scan. If you're scanning for specific modules, in this case, I can say none of them. You can add SOX proxy, number of retries, types of graph. So I will show you graph in a second, and then it will just start and perform the scan. There you go. So now let me actually show you. As you can see, every time the attacker runs, it shows us that the report was saved, and you can see it creates this folder called .OWASP Nettacker, and it stores the results here in this HTML file, and says they're stored in this HTML file and the database. So let me actually show you this HTML file, and you will see something very interesting. So let me copy that file name. That was a previous results, the big one where we had lots of interesting scans, and I want to look at this HTML file. For this, I'm going to launch Firefox in my Kali Linux. Okay, and I will try to open this file here. Okay, and as you can see, something interesting happens here. We have this penetration testing graphs screen appearing, and this is one of the really cool features of Nettacker. You can see we started an attack here. Then there's all the subdomains that we discovered. And you see for every subdomain, we can see the scans that were performed. So we can see there's a server version VULN, there's a WAPalizer scan, X powered by, and you can see that for every vulnerability, we can see the results. So these are all the hosts, all the port numbers that were discovered. And for example, for WAPalizer, you can see a description of all the technologies that were discovered. So you can see for OWASP.org, I was using CDN, GitHub Pages, Fastly, Cloudflare. I was using jQuery. Ruby is a programming language, and framework is Ruby on Rails. We can see here that X powered by module was also successful, and I discovered that this particular host was running a RankSense CW as an X powered by, and you can see all the other subdomains here as well, all on this nice big graph. So this is really, really cool feature. Okay, and underneath the graph, you will see a table, and you can see the results in tabular format, and you will see that Nettacker shows results in a standard tabular form where it displays the host. So this is the host number, host name that they discovered. It could be an IP address if this was an IP scan. If this was an attack like brute forcing, and a particular username and password was found by the brute force, it would be listed here. If this was a port scans, for example, there's a port number involved, we can see that listowas.org had port 443 open, and we can see that also in a description of the vulnerability. And you can see this is the table. There's a bit of effect. So you see if I hover my mouse over a particular finding, it kind of blurs everything else. So this is a very, very, very cool feature of Nettacker. You get your report. Okay, there you go. And you can see this is all our findings. And you can see all the subdomains, everything in this nice HTML table. Okay, so that is the graph. Let's move on to next bit. Okay, so I've just covered graphs. So Nettacker provides these graphs. There are actually several types of graphs that you can use, and you can define them using this -- graph command line options. By default, it uses the D3 tree V1 graph, but V2 graph is also available, and the JIT circle V1 graph is also available. So let me just show you what the circle one looks like, because for some cases, a circle might be a bit more visually interesting. So let me repeat this last scan that I did with OWASP.org. Okay, and I will do a quick one here, OWASP.org, and I want to run the module of server version 1. And I want to define the graph. So, and I want, let me see. Yeah, I want this type of graph. Okay. Okay, as you can see, results are now ready. This should be quick. Let me copy that file name and let me switch back to Firefox and open these results. Okay. There you go. You can see. So this is a different type of a graph, different network map. So again, for some cases, you'll be interested in having the circles where all the findings there will be shown with dots. So this is just another format which is supported by Nettacker. Okay, let me switch back and show you another interesting feature of Nettacker. So Nettacker allows us to save the results in not just HTML format. We can also save the results in JSON and CSV. So why is this important? So for JSON format, it's good because you can chain several tools. So for example, you can integrate Nettacker with some other tools in your pipeline. And because the results are in a structured format using JSON, a file type which can be read and parsed and used for any other purpose. But CSV is actually very, very cool because it's a spreadsheet, right? And why spreadsheets are cool? Because this is every single manager's dream. You run a security tool on your network and it comes back with a spreadsheet showing you with all the open ports, all the types of service that it's running, all the vulnerabilities discovered. And of course, if there was a brute forcing attack, shows you any credentials which need to be modified. So this is really, really cool. Spreadsheets is something which is easily understood, easily used, and of course, very easily managed and filtered. So let me show you how we can run the same scan using a CSV report. So let me switch back to Nettacker. Okay, I'm back on my Kali Linux. Okay, so remember we run this scan, which was the WAPalizer, subdomains, server version, and exported by. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to add a -o parameter. So if you want to output the result in a specific format, you just define -o command line option, and then you define the file name. So if I say results -OWASP, for example, and here if I say that the results are the extension of the file for the results is .json, it will output .json file. If I define .csv, it will output a CSV file. So that's how simple this is. Actually, I've started with a JSON, but probably I was meant to show this with a CSV. So let me actually interrupt this scan, and I will repeat this with a CSV file. Okay, so this is the same scan that we performed before. Yeah, now that's once it runs and completes, we will get the results in the nice CSV file, and I can show you how it can be manipulated. So this scan is probably going to take some time. As you remember, it took us some time. So again, you can see every single subdomain of OWASP.org is now being contacted, and server versions in headers and XPowered by. All this information is being discovered. All the various technologies are now being discovered, and then all now going to be stored in the results file. And the only difference will be is that the results are going to be not in HTML format that we saw before, but they're actually going to be in CSV format. And of course, what's great about CSV, we can just open them using a spreadsheet program. And yeah, because this is Kali Linux, instead of using Excel, I've got my LibreOffice installed here. So I will show you how to open this using LibreOffice. So I will leave this to run for 1 second. Let me just switch to back to my presentation again. To highlight to you that in order to use the different type of report, you have to use this -o parameter. So whatever you define here, whatever will be whatever the extension of the file, this is the type of the report that you will get. So Nettacker also supports .txt, and if you define the .txt file, you will basically get a text file which looks like this. So it will be like an ASCII text generated table. Okay, let me now switch back and see if our scan has finished. Okay, there's my Kali Linux. I think it's just waiting to complete the scan. Yeah, there you go. Scan is now completed. Okay, so you can see report is now saved in this results OWASP.csv file and the database. So I'm going to run my LibreOffice calc. I'm going to have a look at the CSV file here. And there you go, lo and behold, we have a dream. We have a spreadsheet of all assets in OWASP.org, all the subdomains, all the open ports on each subdomain. We can see lots of technologies. And because this is a spreadsheet, of course, we can perform the standard things that you can do with spreadsheet. So you can filter it. So for example, run a filter. And if I want to, for example, find out all the all my assets which are running a particular technology, I can just go and select a particular one. So here, for example, if I want to find Atlassian proxy, there you go. You can see. Find out which OWASP subdomains have Atlassian, and you can see this is the OCMS and contact, and they are running on both ports 443 and port 80. And you can see specific version here, right? Same thing if I want to, for example, find out only those, I can filter by anything. If I want to find out the subdomains which have port 80 open, Again, I can just filter here. There you go. So you can perform anything that you can do with a spreadsheet. And this is why this is so cool. And I think probably Nettacker is one of the very few security tools which are free and open source, which allow you to do this. So this is actually very, very important and very, very useful feature in cybersecurity world, because you can see all the scan results of your network in a simple spreadsheet form. There's no need to parse XML or JSON or any other complicated data structures. Okay, so what else Nettacker has is, and why this is important, I'm going to show you a quote from famous cybersecurity guy, from Jeremiah Grossman. So back in 2017, he suggested a very interesting thing. He suggested that our OWASP top 10 should include A0, or asset inventory. This is saying these days the biggest application security risk are those websites that you don't know you own. And Nettacker actually solves this problem, because it allows you to discover your assets and discover all the websites that you own with all the technologies and all the open ports. And you can see the tool is free and can be used by anyone in the network very easily. Okay, now there's another cool feature of Nettacker, and this is Web UI and API. Okay, so to start the API service, you just need to start API. By default, Nettacker will only be listening on 127.0.0.1 on port 5000. But if you want to make it listen on some other hosts, you can define different IP and port numbers here, define debug mode, and also an access key. So I will tell you about access key, why it's important, because this is the only way how you can currently authenticate into the web UI or API. And there are a few other options. You can define the whitelist. For example, if you want to run the web UI of Nettacker on your network, but you only want to make it available, let's say, to your information security department, then you can whitelist the range of IP addresses which is allowed to connect to Nettacker web UI. And yeah, there are a few other options. You can generate access logs or store them in a separate file. So this is what happens when you start Nettacker with an API mode. It actually generates this random API key. So this is very important, because you need to use this key to actually log in to Nettacker. Without this key, you will not be able to do anything. And once you actually look at the port 5000 of the 127.0.0.1, this is the API that you will see. You will see a screen with several buttons and a field where you're supposed to copy paste your API key. And once you've done it, this is the UI that you will get. You will be able to perform various scans. And let me actually show it to you in a live demo rather than showing it to you on the page. So let me switch back to my Kali Linux again. Okay, we can close this cool spreadsheet. I think we're finished with it. I'm not going to save it. Okay, I think I had API running in a different window here. Python Nettacker start API. Okay. Okay, so as you can see, the first thing when we run an Nettacker in API mode, we get this API key. Let me copy this. And you can see it's running Flask and says this is a development server. Don't use it in production environment. And it's running on HTTPS 127.0.0.1 5000, runs on the local host. But do remember, if I wanted to change it to run on different IP, I could always do it using the API host feature. Okay, let me now go back to my Firefox here and go to HTTPS 127.0.0.1 port 5000. Okay, this is a default certificate. Yeah, so let's accept the risk and continue, because There you go, because this is our own issued certificate. So this is what Nettacker web UI looks like. It has a tutorial mode. If you click on it, it will basically guide you through every part of the screen, telling you how it works. But if you try to click on any other button, you will actually just see the OWASP logo and a message saying, please log in first. So you can't really do anything without logging in. And you can see there's a field here to paste our API key. Let's paste our API key there. And then once we click on the set session, it'll say success, your session updated. So what is here? So if I click on the crawler button first, we will see our last results with a filter, which is very cool, and a search button. And you will see some of the findings that we had before. So you can see these are the subdomains that we discovered on OWASP.org. And these are the various methods that we run. Okay. And also, if I click on the results button, you will see all the previous scans that we've done. They're all shown here. Why this is cool? Because every single scan is actually stored in the database. So by default, SQLite is used by Nettacker. And because this is all stored, the results are all stored, and you can access them here in the nice in a nice form. So let me, for example, click on this one. You can see this is the scan. This is the graph. You remember this one. This is the one we discovered the server version vuln. However, if I click on the on this one, which is the bigger one, you can see this is all saved and the graph is still available. And all the results are available here as well. So this is really, really cool. You can see all your scan results here. And crawler actually allows us to perform search. So let me perform a search. So if I go to crawler and I filter by host, I remember there was a subdomain called Kerala. Let's try that. And search. Yep, there you go. You can see that there was a subdomain discovered. You can see kerala-owasp.org, and you can see that there was a wapalizer performed on it, and you can see that there are a few findings on it. If I click on it, you'll see everything about kerala-owasp.org here. And you can see the server version vulnerability, all the open ports there, and you can see what is running on that subdomain as a jQuery, Modernizer, Cloudflare, Font Awesome, Google Font, and the API is available on this particular host. So this is all really, really cool, because what does that mean? It means, for example, if you were to scan your own network, your internal network, you get this web UI search facility, which is a little bit like getting your own Shodan for your network. You can search for all the findings. You can search for all the open ports, and every single Nettacker scan result is available for you here in a searchable form, which is really, really cool. So this is, of course, on the database side of it. But another thing that you can do from the web UI, you can run a new scan using the web UI. So here again, this is where we can define our targets. This is where you can define same thing which you would do with -i. And again, let me now just try to use my domain. Sorry, I'll use the IP address instead. This is the vulnerable host VM that I'm running. And here you can see the profiles that I discussed before. You can see our Joomla, WordPress, scan, vulnerability, information gathering, and a brute force. So you can see that these are how they work. They're all color coded. You can see brute force and orange. So if I take brute, you can see just the brute forcing modules are activated. And if I take information gathering, then only the port scan is activated. If I take vulnerability, all the vulnerability scanning modules are activated. Again, we can choose what kind of graph we want here. Okay, so for example, if I only want to perform a port scan, I can just take a port scan here. But if I want to perform any other scans, I can just add them. So again, let me add SSH brute as a brute forcing method. Okay, looks like it's all ready. So I'm scanning this IP address. I'm using this two modules, two ticks, and if I click submit, it will submit the request to scan using API. You can see this is the actual API request which went into it. And there you go. And now we can switch to the results tab, and we can wait for the scan to finish. And once it's finished, we can see the results here in the same way. We can access all the other results. And again, while we're waiting, we can keep reloading the current page if we want to, but otherwise it will just show us the last updates. Okay, so let's see how long it will take us to perform that scan. I hope not very long. Okay, looks like it's still scanning. Let me just check that it's working okay. Yeah, it looks like it's still scanning here. Okay, and let me switch back to Firefox. Yeah, one other thing that I wanted to show you as well is once we get the results is that it is actually possible to access the web UI from another IP address. So one other mode that you can use with web UI is to run it in a Docker container. So to show you the Docker, let me switch to the documentation page here. So if we go to OWASP Nettacker, let me just Google for it. This is the OWASP Nettacker's page, by the way, on owasp.org. And you can see all the documentation is here under the wiki. Okay, you will see the various usage, how you can use it, and various installation modes. You can see that Docker is available. So one of the very useful things about Nettacker is that you can run it in a Docker container. So this is the way how you would run it. And once you run it in a Docker, you can actually run the run it in the web UI mode. So it's very simple and quick to spin up Nettacker in your Docker container, and then you will be able to access it using web UI. So all the documentation is available here. And previously, as I mentioned, these are all the modules of Nettacker. So you can see all the scan modules, VULN modules, and brute force modules here. All the documentation is here. And another thing that you will find out, for example, the list of default ports, which will be scanned by Nettacker, and also when you perform the brute forcing attacks, what kind of default password list will be used. Again, you are free to load your own username and password lists from external files when using Nettacker. And of course, you can download those from internet from various sources. So this is very, very useful, and documentation can be found here. Let me now just quickly proceed to the next bit, which I wanted to cover. And this is how easily you can write your own module. So if you remember a year ago in January 2020, the whole world was very concerned about this vulnerability in CITRIX, because of course a lot of people use CITRIX as a VPN into their corporate network, and there was a critical vulnerability discovered in it, which would allow hackers to hack into enterprise networks. So what we did with Nettacker, within just a day of this vulnerability being discovered, we wrote a module for discovering this vulnerability, the CV 2019-19789, and you can just launch Nettacker with this module, and it would quickly scan and tell you if your network had any CITRIX devices and whether they were vulnerable about it. I wrote a blog post about it here on Medium, and this is what actually happens when you scan your network for CITRIX devices. You would get there you go. This is the target. It'll say CITRIX appliance detected, and it'll say that it's vulnerable to this vulnerability. And this was actually used by quite a lot of organizations that I know, and I received quite a lot of good feedback about this module because it allowed several organizations to detect the vulnerable devices in their network before any other tool was actually available for that detection. Okay, so let's quickly switch back to our Kali Linux again. Let's see if that scan's finished, if there's any problem with it. Doesn't look like it's worked. Unless it is there, but I'm not seeing it. Let me just try to run this in manual mode because I want to show you something about this particular host. I think it might be down at the moment because there is one very interesting thing here. I'm not sure whether that scan was correct. So I want to show you how the brute forcing works. So on this particular virtual machine, which I have, let's see if it's still running and vulnerable, 192.168.132.174. Let me just quickly run the port scan. Okay, port scan. Okay, let's see. Yep, looks like it's working. So you can see there is there are several open ports there. So there's port 23, 111, 22, and 881. So port 82 or SSH, I want to run a brute forcing attack module against that port. And for this, if you remember, we have a module which is called SSH brute. So I'm going to chain it. So let me just add SSH brute. Okay. So let's see if that gives us any interesting results. Okay, let's see. So what should happen now is that Nettacker should now use the default username and password list that it has for SSH brute forcing and try to run it against this particular host. So let's see if it comes back with any results. Yeah, I think the demo gods are a little bit not on my side today, but we'll see if it comes back. Again, one thing that I wanted to tell you about Nettacker, if you find that it's running slow, it is because that it's not running in a multi-threaded mode. But as you've seen before, there are -T and -M command line options, which can increase the number of threads and the threads per host, which can speed up the process. So as you can see, currently the reason why this is slow because it's actually trying to scan it with SSH brute, but I'm not sure if it's actually scanning it with the right combination of username and passwords. Let me just let me see if I can rerun this again and just provide it manually. So the reason why I'm trying to show this to you is because I believe that SSH on this machine, just try it again, has a default username and password. But it doesn't look like it's discovering it from the list or it's just taking time. Let me see if I can do it like this. So if I do admin and pass admin. So let's see if this works. Yeah, okay. So I think it was just slow because my machine was slow. This is what I wanted to show you is you can actually scan your service or your whole network for a default username and password. So, and I knew that this particular machine had username admin and password admin on SSH. You can see this was discovered, and the attacker actually showed to us that the attacking tool managed to log in successfully into Nettacker. into that vulnerable host, and now we can see these credentials. Again, why this is important, this first time we're seeing where the username and password are used. And you can see that this is useful because you can run this on your whole network and find out default usernames on any of your vulnerable machines. Okay, let's now switch back to my presentation. I'm going to show you some of the Nettacker use case examples. So a first use case is asset discovery, very important. This is why this project is so cool. You can discover assets running on your network by scanning your network for open ports, scanning network for new hosts. You can scan your network for default credentials. As I just showed you, you can scan for anything which runs admin. But again, you can specify any credentials either manually on the command line, or you can load them from the file. You can scan networks for specific vulnerability. As I showed you, we can, for example, search the network for CITRIX vulnerability. You can monitor subdomains and open ports on them. You've seen how we done it for OWASP.org. Another interesting thing, you can discover expired SSL certificates in your IP ranges. Why is this important? If you try to run it in your organization's network, it will help you to find hosts with expired certificates. Why is it important? Because hosts with expired certificates means they could be abandoned, or these are the hosts that you know nothing about. Again, this helped me to discover a few vulnerable machines in bug bounty programs. So again, remember that you can use Nettacker for bug bounty. And of course, you can find your subdomains which would host vulnerable versions of content management systems such as WordPress, Drupal, and Joomla. Some useful commands for you to take away, the ones that I showed to you. So this is how you can find all subdomains and grab server banners X powered by. You remember this. You can define your target, define subdomains, subdomain scan, server version VULN X powered by, and again, you can add extra threads and host per thread to speed this up. You can find web services on your network and find out what's running using Wapalizer scan. Yeah, this is a simple command to run, and you can get your spreadsheet out of it. Find your expired SSL certificates on your network. Just define your network, use SSL certificate expired vulnerability. You can detect WordPress versions on your subdomains using WordPress version scan. You need to check if any SSH servers on your network have admin. You can just define admin and the target. About contribution, how you can contribute. We welcome all the developer contributions. Please do read the contributor guidelines, which are available on the wiki. And there is a code of conduct, and there is a pull request template that we ask you to follow. I think this is it on the slides now. So thank you very much. If you have any questions, you can contact me via email, sam.stepanyan@owasp.org, or you can find me on Twitter at SecureStep9. I think this is the end of my slides, Vandana. If you have any questions, or if there were any questions, I will be happy to answer them.
Thank you so much, Sam. I don't see any questions, but people were just looking at all the things that you're sharing. I am sure people will reach out to you on Twitter and your email address post the session. But it was really amazing. There were so many viewers who were just looking at the presentation. So I've just got a yes from Krishna Gupta. So Krishna, if there is any question, please do post so that I can share it with Sam.
Yeah, so one of the questions that I usually get about Nettacker is, again, some examples for bug bounty. So while we're waiting for questions, I want to show you another real life example on a bug bounty subdomain. Probably people who are watching this know that a few big companies have bug bounty programs where they encourage researchers to discover vulnerabilities on their networks or on their subdomains. So one such company is actually Tesla. So let me just, because obviously I show you only on OWASP, but I want to show you if you run Nettacker on Tesla, Again, I'm allowed to run a scan on it because it is in a bug bounty program, but I want to just show you how quickly you can get all the subdomains. So you can just do a subdomain scan on something which is not OWASP, just to show you. As you can see, it's found 292 subdomains. You can see how quickly you got that list. See? And obviously, this is why this is so cool. And if we were to, again, look at it in here, it's probably, I think, probably better if I'll output it into the spreadsheet. Again, results.tesla.csv. Again, just showing you something which is a little bit bigger than OWASP.org, so you can appreciate the speed and the usefulness of Nettacker. And I can show you that spreadsheet. Okay, I want to run calc in LibreOffice, and the file that I want to show is this one. Okay, and there you go. We have a spreadsheet of every single subdomain of Tesla, and you can see it took us seconds to get this. There you go. So that's an example of running it on a different domain. Any questions coming?
No, I think Om VAPT will reach out to you. He wants to install, and he wants your help in that.
That's fine. So for the installation, one important thing which you need to check is dependencies. Depending on which operating version you are using, you might need to install some other software. So for example, you need to make sure that you have libcurl OpenSSL dev installed and libSSL dev installed if you're trying to install it on Linux. So this is one of the important prerequisites before you install. And I think there's also differences between Python 2 and Python 3, which we're resolving now. And again, please, I would ask anyone who has any issues installing it to reach out to me. And you can also always create an issue on GitHub and raise an issue here.
Sure. Thank you so much, Sam. This was really, really helpful. And everyone is saying great initiative. Looking forward to use it. Really interesting session. Appreciate the efforts by you. Thank you, Sam. It was really good.
Thank you very much for having me. Thank you.
Thank you, Sam. And speak to you soon again.